One night in the city, the Justice League brings a group of criminals under control. As the police move in to arrest the culprits, a man steps out from the crowd and calls out to Hawkgirl. He introduces himself as Carter Hall and tells her he has been meaning to talk to her for a long time. Pulling out an ancient blade, the heroes get cautious, but he tells them it's an artifact that belongs to her people, the Thanagarians, as he hands it over. He claims that the artifact dates back over 80 centuries, and that he had found it in Egypt during an archaeological dig. Realizing his intention, Batman and Green Lantern try to cockblock him, but Shiera eventually agrees to meet him later to discuss his findings in more detail. Strangely enough, after the heroes leave, as Carter turns to leave, his shadow lingers unnaturally for a brief moment, hinting that something is not quite right about him. Back at the League's headquarters in Metro Tower, Shiera and Batman analyze the weapon. Their scans confirm Carter's claim as they realize that the blade is made of nth metal, a rare substance unique to Thanagarian technology, and the dating supports its ancient origin. The evidence puzzles Shiera since there is no record of Thanagarian presence on Earth from that time period, and she decides to get ready for the date. John arrives just as Shiera prepares for her date. Seeing her dressed more formally, he awkwardly comments on her appearance, and Shiera lightly teases him, offering to help him find a similar outfit for Vixen. Batman then interrupts and delivers his findings on Carter Hall. According to his research, Carter's real name is Joseph Gardner, changed only 6 months ago. He shares that Carter was once a respected archaeologist but lost credibility after making public claims about discovering alien artifacts in Egypt. Batman also shows footage of Carter being spotted near several of Shiera's public appearances since she returned to Earth, labeling him as a creepy stalker. Shiera defends Carter, saying it could just be a coincidence, but Batman remains suspicious, warning that Hall's obsession might be more personal than professional. Shiera insists she can handle herself and decides to go through with the date as she takes the blade and storms out, telling them she can take care of herself. When she leaves, John shares his concerns with Batman because apparently when he traveled to the future, he met his son, who had hinted to him that Shiera was his mother, but Batman redirects it to him, asking why he's still with Vixen if he really believes that. Later, Carter meets Shiera and leads her deep into the Egyptian desert to a site he recently uncovered. Along the way, he explains that he's been searching for connections between Thanagarian technology and ancient Earth civilizations. When they get inside a buried temple, Shiera tries to touch a relic, but accidentally triggers a booby trap, so Carter immediately pushes her out of harm's way. He then warns her that the place is filled with traps designed to protect its secrets as they advance further into the building. Unknown to them, Batman follows from a distance, tracking Shiera to ensure her safety, and a dark shadow secretly follows him as well. Inside the tomb, Shiera notices that the walls are lined with hieroglyphs, showing winged figures wielding nth metal weapons. As they progress through the ruins, Carter finally reveals what he believes is the truth. He apologizes for not being completely honest as he takes off his disguise and reveals himself to be Hawkman, a Thanagarian. According to him, he and Shiera are not meeting for the first time because they are the reincarnations of two Thanagarian lovers, Qatar Hol and Che-Ara, who crash-landed on Earth thousands of years ago. He claims that their memories and experiences were stored in a Thanagarian memory device known as the Absorbicron, which has allowed their souls to be reborn across the centuries. Shiera is left dumbfounded.
I'm not laughing at you.
Meanwhile, Batman continues his surveillance from the shadows, but is suddenly jumped by the shadow that had taken the form of his shadow and has been secretly following him. Moreover, while Mr. Romeo tries to prove to Shiera that she's his long-lost Juliet, they suddenly get ambushed by two similar shadow beings that easily overpower them and knock them unconscious. When they wake, they find themselves chained upside down inside the tomb, and standing before them is Shadow Thief, a criminal who uses a device that allows him to become intangible and manipulate darkness. He demands that Carter open the tomb's inner chamber, which is said to contain lots of treasure, threatening to harm Shiera if he refuses. Not wanting to disappoint the Huz, Carter agrees, even though Shiera asks him not to. At that moment, Batman reappears, having followed the trail into the tomb. He tackles Shadow Thief with a light-emitting device and knocks the villain into a wall. The commotion triggers the ancient traps as the wall shifts, and a set of mechanical mummies springs to life and starts attacking them. Ignoring the commotion, Shadow Thief slips away and starts harvesting the treasure while Shiera is forced to break free of her restraints to help Batman and Carter fend off the robo-corpses. After taking down the zombies, Shiera notices Shadow Thief stealing from the treasure, so she tries to attack him, but just ends up diving through his intangible body. She then switches to her nth metal mace, which emits light, forcing Shadow Thief behind. Batman and Carter similarly activate flares to fill the chamber with light and surround the villain. Shadow Thief, overwhelmed by the brightness, forcefully retreats into the ground, causing the building to crumble. As the tomb begins to collapse, the trio rushes to escape. When they get outside, Carter remembers that the Absorbicron is still in the building, and although Shiera tries to stop him, he flies into the building with the hopes of saving it. Left with no other choice, Shiera follows him, knocks him out, and drags his wobbly ass out of his premature death wish. Outside, Carter still goes on to confess his love, but Shiera turns him down immediately, stating that he barely even knows her enough to confirm that what he feels for her is love. Carter then replies by listing details about her that no one else could know, from her favorite color to the way she goons to the sunrise every Saturday morning. Shiera is stunned by his riz, realizing that his knowledge goes far beyond what anyone could have discovered through observation. He insists that they are bound by fate, and that their connection transcends time and memory, but Shiera still tells him it's just the Absorbicron. Carter sadly tells her he will not force her to believe, but will always be waiting till she's ready to accept the truth. He then spreads his wings and flies off. After he leaves, Shiera hands Batman the tracker he was using to follow her, telling him she was aware the whole time. She asks what he feels about the whole reincarnation fairy tale, but he just tells her it sounds like bullshit. In Tokyo, panic spreads through the city as a giant turtle monster tears through the buildings and nearby cars. While the commotion occurs, a Justice League team consisting of Green Lantern, STRIPE, and Stargirl sets a trap near the harbor, waiting for John's command to lure the creature in. They manage to lure it near the ship, but Stargirl suddenly feels the need to shine in front of the watching crowd, so she ignores orders and rushes ahead to try to trigger the trap herself. Suddenly, Supergirl arrives and pushes the monster into the cluster of barrels filled with a shrinking gas that the team had set. The barrels then explode and the mist envelops the monster, reducing it to normal size within seconds and ending the rampage. When they rejoin the people in the city, Stargirl expects the crowd to cheer her, but to her detriment, all attention turns to Supergirl as children surround the Kryptonian for autographs and photos. Stargirl is left standing next to John, who scolds her for breaking formation and putting the mission at risk. On the flight back to Metro Tower, John and Supergirl exchange easy banter while Stargirl, clearly still upset about Supergirl stealing her aura, quietly vents her frustration to STRIPE, her stepfather. STRIPE, however, brings it to her notice about the Kryptonian's super-hearing abilities. Mid-conversation, the aircraft jolts violently towards a hole in the ice below them. The entire ship then gets pulled downward through a narrow tunnel, descending into a whole new world, lit by a red sun. They land hard in a dense jungle filled with prehistoric vegetation, and before they can assess the situation, a band of lizard-like soldiers appears, mounted on dinosaurs and armed with primitive weapons. Green Lantern shields them with his constructs, while Supergirl tries to take on the overgrown lizards, but she notices how weak she has suddenly gotten. She then realizes that the red sun must have weakened her, leaving her effectively human. The rest of the heroes are forced to cover up for her and take on all the ops, and after a drawn-out clash, the heroes triumph. As the team regroups, a huge Tyrannosaurus Rex bursts through the trees for a surprise attack, but it gets dropped easily by an unknown shooter. The shooter then introduces himself as Travis Morgan, warlord of Shambhala. He explains that he has been expecting them and offers to take them to safety. The heroes follow him to a fortress built into the rock. At the fortress, Travis offers them food, but they refuse it, demanding to know why they were summoned in the first place. He then begins his tale, explaining that he was once an Air Force test pilot who crashed into the subterranean world decades ago. He explains that the subterranean world, called Skartaris, sustains itself around the Red Sun, and he has spent years uniting its people. But a sorcerer named Deimos has begun using scavenge technology to conquer the land, leaving Shambhala as the last refuge. His daughter Jennifer had used magic to summon the Justice League for help. Supergirl, speaking for the group, agrees that they will fight alongside them. Travis warns that Deimos' real goal is the Great Stone, a relic said to contain unimaginable power hidden in a temple within the mountain beneath the fortress, and that if he gains it, Skartaris will fall. In his chambers, Deimos learns about the newcomers from one of his soldiers, who draws the Superman insignia in the dirt to describe Supergirl. After the info, Deimos uninstalls him from existence just for the aesthetic. When he asks if anyone recognizes the symbol, two figures step from the shadows, Silver Banshee and Metallo, offering their allegiance. Metallo glances at the crest and confirms he knows its origin all too well. Meanwhile, Travis leads the League to a temple where they meet Machiste, a warrior king and ally who once used the Great Stone to cure himself of disease. He warns that its power cuts both ways and should be used only in desperation. The monks open the heavy doors, revealing a quite familiar kind of stone, a massive crystal of green kryptonite. Supergirl collapses immediately from the effect, so Green Lantern quickly throws up a shield around her while STRIPE seals the doors. Supergirl later explains that if her powers weren't already suppressed by the Red Sun, the radiation would have unalived her outright. Their moment of relief is interrupted when a jaguar limps into the room and transforms into a wounded woman named Shakira, who reports that Deimos' army is on the move already. The defenders of the fortress rush shield to the walls as explosions shake the valley as Deimos' forces pour forward with their monsters and machines fueled by stolen technology. Lantern forms a protective barrier to shield the walls as well, while STRIPE and Stargirl help hold the line and take on the attackers. Supergirl, although ordered to stay behind, grabs a sword and joins the battle anyway. The dynamics of the fight shift, and despite being outnumbered, the defenders hold their ground through coordination and persistence. Then Silver Banshee joins the attack, unleashing her scream across the field. Noticing how much of a threat she is, Lantern tries to subdue her, but he barely manages to dampen the sound before she escapes into the chaos. During the distraction, Deimos and Metallo launch an attack on the walls and manage to slip into the city, heading straight for the temple. Getting inside, they get intercepted by Stargirl, who charges straight for Deimos but ends up cornered with Metallo. Travis then arrives and challenges his mortal enemy to a duel. Stargirl, however, is struck down easily by Metallo, who tries to open the Great Stone Chambers. He is then stopped by Supergirl, who rage baits him and gets him to start clashing with her instead. While they clash through the crumbling chamber, she damages his arm and causes part of the temple to collapse on top of him. He gets more pissed and uses his kryptonite chest to fire beams at her, draining her of all her energy. During their fairly rivaled battle, Travis makes Deimos lose his footing and fall from a cliff and into an abyss. Meanwhile, Metallo drains out Supergirl and tries to unalive her, but as he tightens his grip around her neck, she uses her last energy to cut his kryptonite battery out of his chest with a mini dagger she picked up during the fight, immobilizing him. Stargirl then regains consciousness in time and intervenes, securing the W. Later, in the caves beneath the fortress, Stargirl tends to Supergirl while Green Lantern interrogates the immobilized Metallo. After a thorough investigation, Metallo eventually speaks up, hinting that he was acting under orders, but before he can reveal who it was, his system shorts out and his mind gets wiped. Travis arrives and announces that it'd be best if they take Great Stone back to the surface with them, and Green Lantern agrees, but Supergirl objects, arguing that it could heal the people of Skartaris. After some thought, the heroes agree to leave the stone, but point out that the passage between worlds must be sealed forever. Travis accepts, content to remain in Skartaris with his family. On their way out, John uses his ring to close the entrance, and Supergirl takes off into the sky, with Stargirl following close behind. As they fly, Stargirl complains about her stepfather's constant supervision, and Supergirl jokes that Superman can be just as overprotective. Their rivalry eases into friendly conversation. Watching them disappear into the distance, John tells STRIPE that he wants Johns to examine Metallo's mind once they return. Someone powerful was pulling the strings, and the League will need answers soon. Thank you for sticking to the end of my video. Please do me the biggest favor by leaving a like, comment, and subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next video.